Since the beginning of time, people have been telling fairy tales to their children, to their children's children, and their children's children, and you get the idea. Stories that have become basically commonplace in today's society. Stories that you immediately hear one part, immediately you can feel it the next. Knight in shining armor, knight battling a dragon, damsel in distress. You know how it goes. And nobody's more prominent than Disney. All of the 4-year-olds, they have Disney. Their moms watch it. They grew up on it, right? And recently, they've been progressing towards more progressive ways of portraying people, mainly focused on minorities and different sexualities, genders, things like that. However, the story I'll be reviewing today does absolutely none of what I just said. It's actually older than Disney, surprisingly. To all the 4-year-olds watching, I know this is going to be a shocker, but Disney was not the first people to invent fairy tales. Fairy tales go back way further than most people realize. And one group of people who wrote fairy tales were Brothers Grimm. Now, the Brothers Grimm were named Jacob and Wilhelm Carl Grimm, and they wrote folklore during the 19th century. And they wrote such certified hood classics such as Cinderella, The Frog Prince, Goose Girl, Hansel and Gretel, Rapunzel, Little Red Riding Hood. You get the idea. However, these were not your typical run-of-the-mill Disney, happy, family-friendly, everything's great in the world type of things. No. These stories were gruesome. These stories had a lot more violence, gore, all just sorts of things that every 40-year-old soccer mom would absolutely die if her kid ever saw in the real world. So, they've gone a little bit under the radar, you know? So, it's nice to have some of their literature brought back to the light by absolutely amazing scholars like myself. But with all that out the way, I'm going to get on to the focus of today's little adventure of a video. We're going to be reviewing the story The Poor Man and the Rich Man by the Brothers Grimm. I'm going to be explaining to you why it might be one of the best stories of all time. And I know you think I'm just messing with you. No, 100% one of the best stories of all time. Now, and simultaneously, I will be reviewing 3 archetypes that are commonly found in fairy tales that also pertain to this fairy tale, as well as 3 things that I thought made this interesting to read, and maybe you might want to read it after too. So, the first archetype to prop up is literally in the first sentence. In olden times. I didn't even finish the whole sentence. Those were the first 3 words. And here comes the first archetype. The once upon a time or long ago in a far, far away. Any sort of variation of that is considered the once upon a time archetype. And it's found here. So, anyway. The story continues. I'm going to synopsize it. I'm not going to read it to you. If you want to read it yourself, I'll link it in the description, okay? But you're a big boy. I think you can handle this. Okay? So basically, the Lord himself used to walk upon the earth, and he was tired one day from walking, and he got taken over by darkness before he could reach a hotel, an inn, whatever you want to call it. So, in front of him were 2 houses, a large and beautiful house and a small and poor house. The large house belonged to a rich man and the small house belonged to a poor man. This is another stereotype that has already presented itself, I know, shocking. We haven't even gotten through the first paragraph and we've already gotten another archetype. This archetype is called what I like to call the good bad switcheroo. Now that's a kind of a confusing name. However, that's why I'm here to explain it to you. Basically, as I'll tell you later on into this, the person in the big house he's not a very nice guy, you know. He's a kind of mean to God and doesn't let him sleep in for the night, you know. And the poor man gives him everything he can and gives him everything he wants, you know, even though he himself doesn't have a lot. This is a common archetype found in when nicer things have not as nice insides, and the other way around, you know, hidden gem. So that's the second archetype already. So the Lord went over to the big house and he knocked on the door. He asked me, hey, can I stay for the night? You know, I'll be out of your hair in the morning. You know, we could swap manly stories. We could bake waffles. It'd be a great time. The rich man looked at the traveler because he didn't know it was the Lord. And he was wearing common clothes, you know. He is wearing his, you know, he has common clothes on. He had the black Air Forces on. So, you know, I don't really blame him for being a bit suspicious. But regardless, basically he sassed off the traveler and just told him to go away. So the traveler, he turned around and went across the street to the poor man's house, and the poor man, being the absolute Giga Chad he is, gave him everything he wanted. Gave him a nice meal, good company. He gave him basically everything. They gave him everything he wanted. They gave him potatoes, they gave him milk, they gave him bread, they gave him company. And they even gave him his bed when it was time for him to sleep, and they slept on the floor. And these were an old couple, okay? These aren't your typical 40-year-old Americans, okay? So the next day, the traveler wakes up and they made him a breakfast, and he set off on his journey. But before he left, he asked them, please, you've been so nice. Ask for 3 wishes and I will give you whatever you wish for. And guess what? This is a third archetype that we found. Oh my God. Who would have guessed it? The 3 wishes. I know, crazy. We've all heard the 3 wishes before. If you haven't, you're lying, okay? Aladdin. Some sort of Aladdin, okay? All different, very different movies that all have the 3 wishes parody in them, okay? So the man, because he's such an absolute Chad, he doesn't ask for money, fame, or Reddit karma. He asks for happiness for as long as him and his wife live, and that they'll be healthy every day and get that daily gamer bread. And he didn't know what to wish for the third thing because he's such a humble guy that he didn't have anything he wanted. So Traveler said, hey, I'll get you a new house, or make this old house better, because, you know, they were kind of living in a shack, like I said earlier. So the man said, oh, that'd be great, dude. Yeah, let's do that. So the Traveler made his house into a very new, pretty, beautiful house, like something you'd see on HGTV. And then he went on his way. And then the rich man came out of his house, and he saw the new house across the street, you know, the bigger house, made from nothing but pure Gucci brick. And he ran over across the street, and he asked, how did you get this house? Because, you kind of used to live in the slums, I'm not going to lie. And the wife answered, well, we let this nice man stay in our house, and he granted us the wish. And then, like most people do, after tweeting something embarrassing, the rich man realized he had made a terrible mistake. He didn't let the traveler stay. And he thought, you know, maybe I can catch up to the man and ask him if I can get some 3 wishes, you know? So he catches up to him on a horse, and he asks the man, hey, can I get some 3 wishes, bud? And the traveler says, I would advise against it, okay? It's not gonna go well for you. It's only gonna bring you misery. And the rich man, he doesn't listen, like that 12-year-old who won't stop flipping the fire alarm in middle school. Jeremy, it's not funny. Please stop. So he listens and he says, okay, you can have your wish, but it won't give you happiness. Okay? He gives him a warning. Okay? So he's not an idiot. So the rich man goes back. He got what he wanted. So he rode home and he started thinking what he should wish for. And as he was thinking, he kind of let his reins for the horse, they fall. So the horse begins to like mess around, doesn't act right, you know. And the man couldn't think about what he wanted to wish for. So he tries to calm down the horse. The horse still doesn't listen. So eventually he just gets so mad that he cried out, "I wish your neck was broken." And because he said "I wish," it was granted, and the horse died. He killed his horse. And he didn't realize until after the fact that he had done such a stupid thing, to be honest. Now if you're keeping count, he only has 2 wishes left, and now his horse is dead, so he has to walk all the way back home. But because he's the way he is, he couldn't leave the saddle on the horse. He had to take the saddle with him. And he's taking the saddle with him, and he's walking, and it's hot because he woke up very late in the day. And he starts to complain, "Oh, the saddle is heavy, the sun is too bright." And then he realizes, my wife doesn't have to do this. She doesn't have to do anything. Like girls on Twitch. What is this? And so he starts getting impatient. He starts getting envious of his wife not having to do anything. And he said, before he was even aware of it, "I just wish that she would sit there on this saddle and she could not get off of it instead of having to drag it along my back." So basically, he's asking for the wife to carry the load while he doesn't have to. And then he realized that the saddle disappeared from his back. And that's his second wish gone. And then he starts to feel really hot because he was using the saddle as kind of an umbrella from the heat. So he ran home and he was still thinking of something, what he wanted for his last wish. And he gets home and he opens his door and his wife is sitting on a chair with the saddle and it's on top of her. She can't get it off because she's too weak. Which this could itself be an archetype by saying women are weak and defenseless. So there's a 4th archetype for you. Look at me being so generous. So anyway, she starts complaining, like, "Get this thing off me. You cannot leave this on me. This is not gonna work well for you." And he realizes, I have to use my last wish on this because she won't be able to get off without him. Now you might be asking, why didn't he just lift the saddle? No, this is magic. That's not how this type of stuff works, okay? So he realizes he has to wish, and he's like, "Listen." He tries to bargain with her. He goes, "Listen, I'll just give you whatever you want. Just sit there on the saddle, please." And the wife, because she's not a troglodyte, realizes this is a stupid idea because she can't enjoy anything he'd get because she'd still be on the saddle. He's like, "No, use your wish right now." And he uses the wish, and now he has no more wishes. He has lost all his wishes, and all he did was get vexation, trouble, abuse, and the loss of his horse, according to the text. And the poor people lived contently, quietly, and piously until their happy death. That's the final archetype. Happily ever after. Now, with this absolute epic saga of a story out of the way, I'd like to talk about a couple of things I thought were interesting that made it stand out from some of his contemporary pieces. The first thing I thought was interesting was that the rich man didn't die in the story. Now, that sounds weird at first, but I'm gonna be honest. When I first read the story, I kind of figured the rich man was gonna die, or like his wife was gonna die or something, because it just seems it's so common for the villain or the antagonist to end up dead or in a very inescapable place or something, you know? So it just seemed like, you know, the way this was going, oh, he was just gonna die and the two were gonna live happily ever after. There was no doubt about the happily ever after. But he, surprisingly, he didn't die. He just kind of he had a rough day, a really rough day. He lost his horse. He had 3 wishes and he wasted every single one of them. Even I wouldn't be stupid enough to do that. And he also just kind of caused pain for everyone around him. And that's not ideal. So that was the first thing I found interesting. The antagonist didn't die. The second thing I found interesting was that the horse died. I thought the wife would die 100%, or the husband would die, because so they would realize, the other would realize the error of their ways. But no, the horse died, which that's a shame, you know. Rest in peace, horse. I'm sure it was a pretty good horse. And it's less than 1,800 words, so even your 3-year-old cousin could read this story and decently understand the concept. Now, with all of this said, I'm gonna leave you with one thing. Don't get 3 wishes. Get 2, get 4, don't get 3. It never ends well, okay? Thank you for watching. This took 19 minutes to record, so I appreciate you sticking with it and listening to the entire thing. Hopefully you enjoyed the gameplay, my little poor attempts of humor throughout. Please give me a good grade, Mr. Wilson. Okay, shout out. And I'll see you later. I'm out. Peace.
Came a long way from Guitar Hero mics. I was growing up alone, trying hard to decipher the meaning alongside walking through life with my hands on my head and my heart in a vice or something crushing. I've been on the up and up and up again.